I know, that's rude of me. Hello, hi, it's me. Hi, life is yours. Heat on the opening screen. I think I was gonna do that and let it affect the, whoa, there's heat. Yep, so that's turned on, isn't it? Well, welcome to my face. Wait, why isn't heat on in my dashboard? Okay, well, great. I think I'm gonna maybe change this from paint to something a little less intense. Heat map, that one. Yeah, okay. Hi, hello, it's me. I've been thinking about what I want to work on today, and we started that project. Gobstopper. I have wet hair. I should probably actually make sure my hair dries before I stream, but I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered. So I was just playing with the dashboard, the Twitch dashboard. They made some changes to it, and I changed the arrangement a little bit, and I don't know if I like it. Hello, Lorian, how are you? I don't know. I like seeing my stream health. I have a new activity feed. I think that's new, which I like, but it's a little hard to arrange everything the way that I want. Turns back to host. I don't know. I don't know why that would be the case. Why? I don't know the answer. Here's the thing though. Here's what I think I know the answer to. Maybe Twitch is just weird. What class are you going to, Lorian? I am gonna work on Metronome, which is a thing I've written a dozen times in Unity. And I was talking about this the other day. Like, sometimes I think I just started the wrong thing. Oh no. Sometimes, Draclin was saying like, oh, something I was working on, maybe I should just, have some little library or some reusable tool to do that. And I used to do that more often, but I don't do it as much anymore because in some ways I like rewriting small systems, unless they're huge. But in general, I kind of like rewriting small systems because, every time I do it, I'll be a little bit better at what I do. And another reason is it helps me get back into the mindset of the platform because we were doing all that web stuff and all the heat stuff. And so I'm feeling a little rusty with Unity in general. Digital arts, what goes on in digital arts? Also, here's what I think I'm going to do. I'm not going to stream for super long because I'm meeting this afternoon, but I think I'm going to write a metronome in the way that I traditionally write a metronome with coroutines, and then I think I'm going to try to do it with new async await stuff, which I'm still getting the hang of a little bit in Unity. Graphic design, but what goes on in there? What kind of software are you using in there? Photoshop, Illustrator? Okay, let's go over here. Another thing I want to do, here's what I've been thinking. I've been thinking maybe I need to show my desktop. That was not it at all. I wish OBS had undo. Show my desktop smaller and then compose the screen in some way so I can always have some interactive stuff going on. Photoshop and Illustrator, I kind of feel bad for you. I'm sorry to hear that. I think if I was going to learn something today, I would want to learn something different. I would probably want to learn Sketch instead of Illustrator. And then, I don't even know what to use instead of Photoshop. Pixelmator, maybe? Okay, and there's some other questions that we will maybe answer here. One of them is still this problem of managing dependencies that I'm still not crazy about, but let's just start. So here's the normal way that I would do this, kind of from scratch. Let's write a metronome. So the traits that we want our metronome to have are kind of the following. We want it to tick at a consistent rate that we tell it. So we'll just tell it BPM, and then it will tick based on that. We might also give it some kind of beats per measure thing. So basically it can go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then either restart and maintain a kind of measure count. I don't know if we'll want that, but sometimes I do. Sometimes I do want to know which measure I'm on. So you don't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2. That would be 8 beats per measure. We can decide if we want to do that, but I do want the idea of at least every measure to know so I can do something different per measure. And maybe that won't be an event. But anyway, so it's going to count time at a specific rate that we want. We want it to fire some kind of, you can do it with a mod. It's pretty simple math. We want it to fire some kind of event. We might do it as a delegate kind of thing. That's typically how I would do that. which means you need a reference to it, which gets us back to this whole dependency injection thing. That is, it's a thing. It's a thing. Typically what I've done in the past is made it a singleton or made it available to a singleton. Why did the music just stop? That was weird. Music, why did you stop? Well, beat mod beats per measure. Yeah. So you'll have a beat count. I typically think of them as ticks, like a tick of the metronome. But yeah, that would be beats modulo whatever beats per measure you want. And so those are some of the traits we want. And there's some slight gotchas in there, right? Like just the notion of this thing firing off results means you can't just say, oh, let's just, great, 120 beats per minute, divide it up, do the math. That's a fixed interval, and we'll just tick this thing every time at this interval. You can't really do that because, I mean, you could probably come up with some way to do that, but and make it work. But one of the problems that can happen, especially if you're doing this in a loop like in a coroutine, there's an amount of time it will take to execute whatever you need to execute, which is variable. The metronome doesn't know that because things will be subscribing to it. So it will be like, it will be firing off code of arbitrary complexity, and it needs to maintain a timer of that so that it's not always saying like, oh, every 0.2 seconds, let's do a tick. It needs to be every 0.2 seconds minus the amount of computational time is another thing that is like a slight issue there. So these are not difficult problems. They're solvable problems, but just kind of outlining what the functionality we need here is. And typically the way I've done that in the past is, yeah, with Unity coroutines. And so I think that is the first version we will write. Lauren, have a great class. Make something amazing in Illustrator. So we will make a metronome class, and then probably I'm going to just start with some cut and paste here. Because, in fact, we won't even worry about that yet, but like the singleton stuff, all of that stuff, that's very cut and pasty. Like, I always have to remind myself how to do it. It's not that complicated. In fact, let's just do it. So we need like a private metronome instance that nobody can touch, and then we need a public metronome instance. One is a field, one is a property. And basically, this will be kind of a getter setter sort of thing. We won't ever set it. But basically we'll say, if you ask for the instance, and if the instance hasn't been set, then we need to get an instance. In this case, this is where this isn't quite like the normal, just mad because I'm not returning something. Actually, this should always return instance. It's not quite the normal singleton pattern, like the normal singleton pattern out in the universe. In this case, we have a thing, right? We have an instance of this because it's going to live in the scene and be a mono behavior. So it will be, its initial instantiation will just happen because it's a member of the scene, right? It will be created because it's in the scene on a game object. It's a component on a game object, so it will exist. The thing that's just going to be weird is, in fact, this needs to be static, right? Because we're going to reference this as a static property, basically, but it's going to return the real deal. In fact, I need to remind myself how to do that. I think I might be missing a slight step here as far as what is appropriate to have static or not. I've got to remember how we usually do this. Oh, and you can also do it like, so some people do it with like a singleton class that they build off of where you can pass it a type. Maybe we would do that if we needed other flavors of singleton. I just got to remember one thing. Yeah, okay, right. Yes, this also needs to be static. But it's going to be, these static references on this class are going to point to a real instance of the class, but we're going to get it from Unity. And that's the part that's maybe a little bit weird. So maybe normally in C# world or other languages, at this point, when you asked for an instance, like at the static level on that class, if it didn't exist, it would be created. In this case, we're not going to create it. We just need to find it. And so let's see. Let's steal. What's the normal way people do that? I feel like there's a very common. Yeah, sometimes people create it, but I don't like that as much because I tend to like to have it in the scene. So you could still do the create it. You could create a game object and like build it. But there's a specific piece of Unity documentation that I like to steal from if I can remember. Because I think all we want to do is just find it. I feel like there's one that I use all the time and I'm having trouble finding it. I'm just not remembering if it's like game object find or what I typically use in that scenario. Because it's been a little while. Also, it's one of those things that I end up copying, pasting a fair amount. So here's an example where they're just doing it, where they're creating it every time. But I don't want that one. I think I want to do the find one because again, I kind of like to have it in there. All these people are creating them. Which we could do, but I don't want to. Why can't I find that one that I like? This is always the fun part of the stream where I just Google for a while. That's what we want, is this find object of type. Which is not super fantastically efficient, and it's not something you want to do a ton of, but it's a thing that I think is reasonable to do. In a case like this, where we do instance equals. So that will get us a reference to our buddy. I think that will work for us. And then other things we'll be able to refer to this metronome. Now, as far as what we're going to do, we'll test this in a little bit and see if I actually did it correctly. Very possible that I did not. I feel like there's other kinds of finds you can use here. Or again, you can create a thing here. But all you want is to say like this static reference. Static meaning it exists on a class without needing an instance of the class. So you don't need to do like new metronome. We never need to do new metronome because we have a metronome that exists in the scene. Hope I've made that clear. I feel like I convoluted it. So then we're gonna want a coroutine that is essentially like our ticker. It's gonna be the thing that will tick. So we'll do like a, I always get this backwards. Which one is correct? I think it's an IR numerator, not an IR numerable. And then on start, we'll just do a start coroutine ticker. And this is just mad because it has no return, but. And as far as how to maintain it, we can have like something to indicate whether or not it's active or enabled. I don't really know what language I prefer to use because Unity uses both active and enabled in different instances. No. I'm just gonna try to look and see, like this dot is active and enabled. Like those already mean things, you know. So we might just have like an is ticking kind of thing, which we also may be. Since That's going to be our whole thing. And then this would just be sort of like while is ticking. I don't tend to do that, actually. For my booleans, I don't tend to do the is. Underscore enabled, disgusting. I would never use underscores. I don't tend to actually, lots of people do this, the is thing. I don't really like that as much. Underscores, no. But that's, I guess, at the point, I don't want to use active or enabled because those mean different things in Unity. Like those have different meanings. So I want a phrase that is not tangled up with some existing syntax, because that could get confusing both for me or anybody else that would ever look at this, right? So I think it's worthwhile to come up with a vocabulary. So basically, this thing's just going to loop, and the whole challenge here is going to be this, because actually it's going to be more like new wait for seconds. And right now we'll just make it 1 second, but it's going to be fractional seconds. So this is enabled. Again, I don't want to use the word enabled or active. I don't want to use those words because those words already have a meaning. It'd be like if I got a toaster and I was like, oh, look, a toaster. I'm going to call it dog. That would not be a good idea. Dog already means something. Wait, how many seconds again? Well, wait for seconds is a built-in thing for coroutines, which this is not great. I actually don't like this particular approach when you have a variable amount of time you want to wait, because it's not leaking memory, but you're allocating memory every single time, which is not great for garbage collection, but it's a tiny amount. So if we run this, we should get a tick every second, except I'm sure I broke something else. Oops, don't do that. Did I not put the thing on my metronome? No, it's here. What did I forget to do? Start coroutine. Oh, ticking is false, of course. So the first thing we'll do at the beginning here is set it to true, and then something else could set it to false if we wanted to. That's a way that we could kill that coroutine. We can also use, yeah, so now we're getting a tick every second. Wait, I'm gonna fix this additional audio listener. We don't even want one here. Who's writing, man? Why? I'm so displeased with the death of, Wait seconds? No, you can't, because this is going to be variable. I mean, I could right now because this is, this is a constant, so I could do that. I could declare this outside. But what I was explaining before is this is going to have to be variable, because there's going to be some computation time in here. So even though we have a fixed amount of time that we want to wait, this will always be the amount of time we want to wait minus whatever the computation time is. And that's just kind of sucks, but that is a side effect of using this particular approach, which we don't have to use this particular approach. There's definitely other ways we could do this. But as far as like easily scheduling a thing to happen at a set amount of time in Unity, I feel like a coroutine with a wait for seconds is a pretty common way to do that. Now, what we're going to try to do is try to write an alternate version of this with async and a wait instead of coroutines. I think we're going to have the same symptoms. Maybe we can get away with it without the allocation. So, I mean, let's write this anyway. So this will be sort of like almost type let, because I've been in JavaScript land. So this will be float start time, time.time, and then at the end of it we will have a float end, or like a float duration equals time.time minus start time, and then we'll have a float wait time that's going to be interval time minus duration or something like that. Whereas if interval time was 1 second or whatever, which we could define as some constant up here, which actually won't be a constant because we'll calculate it based on BPM. But for now, we could say like private interval time equals 1. Float interval time. equals 1. So the idea being there's some amount of computation that has to happen in here. We have an interval that we always want to hit, which is 1 second. But because we wasted some time doing work, we need to subtract that time. And this is the best way I know how. I may not have written this perfectly because I was breezing through it, but that's the best way I know how to make sure that your metronome ticks at something very close to the rate that you want it to tick at, because human ears are, maybe this varies for different people, but I feel like human ears are pretty rhythmically attuned, and if something is very slightly out of rhythm, even by like milliseconds, you can kind of tell, like, that was a little late, or that was a little early, and that is not good for a musical thing, unless you're doing it on purpose. But in general, you don't want a metronome that has different tick durations. That's weird. Why didn't double-clicking this take me to Visual Studio Code? Oh, it eventually did. That was weird. Cool. Okay, so now the big question is like, well, what needs to happen? How are we going to do this, right? Like, what are we going to do to make this happen? And for that, I usually use, I forget every time the syntax for this, or I screw it up. Where's the Unity example? Yeah. So here's their delegates example. So I like to use delegates for this because there's not really, there are Unity events. There's different ways to handle this. There's different ways to listen for events, things like that. I tend to like this delegate pattern. I don't know why. Maybe this isn't actually that great, but maybe the reason I like it is versus like event listening, where the thing, which the thing in this case is the metronome. In this case, the metronome knows about everything that it needs to tell about a new beat or a new tick, versus it just sending out an event and things responding to it. I don't actually know. I would have to, maybe I should reevaluate that, because this is just a pattern I've been using for a long time, so I don't, maybe if I thought about it, I would decide I didn't actually like it very much. But in general, I think this is what we're gonna do. So we will probably want like a tick delegate. I don't really like this phrasing of it though. I feel like there's some other examples that I like more. I thought the examples I liked were from their documentation. Some of the stuff I just haven't looked at in a long time. Yeah, equals that, this. The general idea is that you have some variable that's tracking a bunch of methods on other classes that it doesn't even necessarily know about, that so you can fire off like something like a tick, and then everyone will know like, oh, a tick happened. So I don't know how I want to name this necessarily, but let's just start with a name like this. I like the on thing. Maybe that's a little weird. And it will come with an integer, in which this case will be like the beat, or which tick count maybe. Like, and what we need to do is, when we want to call that, you want to say like, make sure it's not null, and if it's not null, then call it. And by doing that in here, in our metronome coroutine, we're going to say like, if onTick is not equal to null, then call it, and then it will call everybody who has said, hey, I want this. It will call that. It will call the method of that class that has been subscribed to. Oh yeah, we need to pass a tick count. So What are you mad about? And then down here we will increment it. I often end up with a problem where I need like last tick and next tick and the times for those things. Yeah, the on. That JavaScripty world is a way to do it. For something that emits an event. Unity, you can do something kind of like that with event listeners. I just don't tend to do it. Like, there is Unity events. Wait, this is more what I like, actually. This is the example I was thinking of. But this is just a delegate. I mean, it's still just a delegate. This isn't what I was thinking of, though. I thought there was something more like actual. I'm confused because these aren't events. This is still delegates. I thought there were real Unity events. That's what we want. Yeah, with actual, I just don't use those very much. And then you evoke it. Maybe that's better. Maybe I'm like doing things in the old way. That's funny though. This events is what I was thinking of, but maybe this has just been around for a long time because it's still using delegates. That's how I remembered it calling with an on. But it is event. It's an event, I guess. It's still an event. Is that what's different here? But I think to have a parameter to this, we have to do something weird if it's an event and have a custom event type, maybe. Okay, let's do it this way. This is what I was actually remembering. Maybe we do actually need it to do it this way to have it accessible outside. We'll just follow this pattern because I'm just not quite remembering the difference. But then it's still the same. Call it that way. Though I'm vaguely remembering though that if we want a parameter like this, we have to do something a little different. But I can't exactly remember. So anyway, so that should call. Let's see if it gets mad about the parameters. Does both have to be public? So the one thing that's annoying about this is that anything that wants to know about the metronome needs to, not annoying, but it's just a fact of the matter. Anything that wants to respond to the events of the metronome needs to have a reference to the metronome, right? And that's I think fair to say, because by saying that this is going to respond to events by a thing, that means that the metronome is a dependency. And so from a certain perspective, I think it's fair to say like, okay, well, if the heart, for example, is going to respond to this, then the metronome is a dependency. And so there's a million ways we could do that. I still am not, I don't know, man. I'm still on the fence about it. So maybe what I would do is something like metronome, and then in the start here, do like metronome equals metronome.instance. And then I do have a local reference for whatever I need to do. And then I can do metronome.on. Why don't I have that? Oh wait, why is it static there? I think I've gotten lost in my cutting and pasting. I think I started with the wrong reference. Oh, well, interesting. So this is I get it. Okay, so in this realm, it's kind of weird, but okay. I don't think I want to do that really. I don't think I really need it to be static. So this is a way that you could, if you wanted, have an event manager where you wouldn't have to do what I just said, where you wouldn't have to have a reference to the metronome just to subscribe to it. Do I like that or do I not like that? Because then you could just do this, like metronome.onTick. Trying to think if there's any other reason we'd need to talk to the metronome. But off the top of my head, I actually can't think of one. So you know what? Maybe we don't. Let's try this. Let's try. This feels a little bit weird. Because you still have stuff going on in metronome land. And the event manager. This is a real thing. Oh, I don't know. This feels a little bit weird. So basically, in the static part, instead of being the instance, which we could kind of ditch all this, if we do it this route and have onClick be static, onTick be static. I don't know. I don't know if I like that. That's not how I've done it in the past. The way I've done it in the past is more like, but maybe I like that. I'm just trying to think if there's any other instances in which I need them to talk to the metronome, but there kind of isn't usually. And this is one less singleton. It just feels a little weird though, because we're treating it like a staticky thing, even though it does exist in the world. Well, maybe that's fine. I don't know. Let's try it. Let's give it a shot. Okay, so then what we can do here is now inside here we can say like, if I've done this correctly. I know I'm meandering a lot. But that's what happens when you switch languages for a while and then you switch back and gotta remember how to do it. Okay, now we're getting heart ticks. So now our heart is able to, because of this delegate, which I guess is an event, but is not the same as a Unity event. I'm a little fuzzy on that, I have to admit. I haven't looked into that distinction in a while. That came up recently with something we were working on where it was not using delegates, but it was using Unity events. We had to do it a different way. Anyway. So what I've done in the past is this same thing, but this wasn't static, basically, where you had to have a reference to the metronome. But maybe that's fine, because anything we needed to know, I think we could just pass along to this, because there's other things we may need to know, like for example, if we were going to animate something over time between two beats, we would need to know the time of the last beat and the next beat to be able to interpolate between it over time. So say like we're going to shoot a thing and the next beat we want it to crash into this thing. I think we did some of that with the sun, is like we'd shoot it out and then it needs to interpolate. No, we didn't use metronome on the sun. Anyway, we've done it with some stuff. It would shoot out and it would interpolate based on the amount of time between two beats. So it's important to know that time, you know, and it's kind of nice to be able to ask the metronome for that, but we really could do all of that with static properties and methods. I don't know, man. Kind of into it, slightly into it. Okay, one thing we want to do though is this. We want to have like instead of interval time, we want to have a BPM, and we'll default to 120 beats per minute. And then based on this, we want to figure out the interval time ourselves. And maybe we would do that. You kind of always need to do it because you could be messing with the BPM at any time. So interval time is going to be what? It's going to be like 60 seconds in a minute divided by the beats per minute, right? Is that all it's going to be? What are you mad about? Right? Because if that was 60, it'd be 1 beat per second. So that's the time we're going for, and then it's minus this. So I think that works. And then we would get rid of this, and then just inside of our... So that way we could mess with our BPM. Anytime we started here, yeah, and anytime we needed to kill the metronome, we would just set ticking to false. Something like that. I'm slightly weirded out by this approach. Just a little bit different than what I've done in the past, but that's okay. Okay, so now this should beat twice per second. We should get that heart tick twice per second. Yeah. Okay, so now we just need to decide what the heart is gonna do, excuse me, twice per second. So maybe the first thing we do is just, I don't know, put some animation on it and make it like pulse a little bit and set up an animation controller, something like that. We should also organize this project a little bit while we're at it. Oops. All right, how do we want to do that? I kind of want to just have the heart, get an animator on it, and then just do some animation here that just like have a real quick up and down whenever the beat is. Now what's a little annoying like that is, like if we trigger it on the beat, it's gonna maybe seem a little delayed. You know, if something goes up and down, you almost would want the up to hit when the beat hit. But let's ignore that for now. Let's add an animator. We need an animation controller, we need all that stuff. So we'll need an idle and we'll need a beat. So we'll have like heart idle.anim and heart beat.anim. And it will basically, we'll set up the state machine so that idle, I think we're just gonna do scale for now. So that'll be transform scale, and it's just gonna be static at 1 and it doesn't need anything else. Or it'll be actually whatever the size is, which is kind of annoying, but we'll maybe change that at some point. Whereas heartbeat will add our scale. And then maybe over the course of, maybe we'll make it get, that's not what I meant to do. Does that not save? What am I doing wrong? Is there a problem here? Why is this not updating this keyframe? 0.2. Okay, so now we get like a little pulse. That's kind of a fast up, slow down kind of pulse. Problem is like if you get too fast with your faster than 120, which is going to be 30 frames at 60 frames per second, but maybe we just will plan not to go faster than 120 beats per minute. Okay, so now we need to set up an animation state machine so that when we fire a specific trigger, it's going to do this little pulse. So we're going to enter into idle, which we're already set up on, which is good. Idle does not need to loop. I gotta think of where that is. Is that on the animation clip itself? Yeah. Idle doesn't want to loop. In fact, heartbeat doesn't want to loop either. And so basically what we want to say is we have idle, and under very certain circumstances, idle is going to transition to beat, which is going to be a trigger we return. And then when it's done, it's going to go right back to idle. And so there's going to be two things happening in this transition. One, I don't want any transition. I want the exit time. I don't want it to have an exit time, actually. I want it to... Wish it would just, like... I guess 1 is the duration of it. So I don't want it to, like, crossfade at all. We could decide to do that. We could do it something where, like, one of them's already big or something and we crossfade to it. But I don't think I want to do that in this case. So going back is just, like, play the heartbeat, and then when that's done, go back to being idled. So that one's easy. To go the other way... Are you suffocating? Are you killing yourself with cola? Don't die. The other way, we don't want animation to dictate that. We want a specific trigger called tick, we'll say, that whenever we fire that trigger, we want to pass... Did I say that? I don't want it as a bool. I want it as a trigger. Yeah, tick. So whenever tick happens, we want to move from idle to heartbeat. And we don't want any kind of, we don't want any kind of transition. We don't want any kind of exit time. We don't want any of that. We just want to say, like, whatever you're doing, if a tick happens, make a heartbeat happen. So this should work now. If I click this, yeah. Anytime I click this, see how no matter where it is in that heart idle animation, it immediately jumps. And so I use triggers like this a fair amount with the Unity animation state machine and the animator to be able to say, hey, just sit there for a minute until I tell you to do something, and then do that thing. And then when you're done doing that thing, go back to idle. And idle, in this case, there's no animation on idle, but we could certainly have some nice animation on idle as well. So what we want to do now inside heart, I'm lost. Yeah, inside the heart is say, whenever we get a tick, let's animate a little bit. So let's have an animator, and let's get... And then whenever we get a tick, we will do animator dot, I think it's set trigger, yeah. And our trigger is called tick. Could probably have a better name. Why is Metronome mad about this? What? I think that's just Visual Studio Code not being smart. Okay, so now when we run, anytime a tick happens, it should fire that trigger, and it should automatically reset that trigger, I hope. Oops. What did I break? Oh, because that's on heart container. Well, that's a confusing thing I've done, isn't it? What does heart container even do? Is that a thing we use? Or can I just move heart from there to there? I don't remember why we had made that a class. There was probably a reason. Okay, now we have it. So now we have this very fast heart rate, 120 beats per minute. This thing beats. You can see that it's just firing the trigger over and over again. This idle, it has some duration. It doesn't really need it. But it's also not really hurting anything. I don't actually know why it even thinks it has duration, since we only have an initial keyframe. Maybe there's some way to tell it to not do that. I guess we could do like speed 0 or something so it doesn't play that, but I also don't think it's hurting anything. It just looks a little weird here, right? To have it, like if I do speed 0, does it? Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that hurts anything. I think it just looks slightly strange here. But we can see that that is firing. And then hopefully if I went over here to the metronome and changed this to 60 beats per minute, yeah, now we would get 1 beat per second. If I change it to 30 beats per minute, we should only get a beat every 2 seconds. Yeah. Wait, I didn't type 30, I typed 20. And in fact, maybe we should always count the interval right before. It's a little weird about when to calculate the interval. I don't really expect us to be like dramatically changing the BPM a lot. Being good? I don't know if I'm being good. I think that like just looking at it's funny because, you know, like every time, like my first project, I think that had a metronome in it in Unity was Velodic at the end of 2015, I think. And like, I think I'm a better Unity creator than I was then, and especially after this huge project in the fall, I have lots of different opinions on how to do things. And like, you know, it was my instinct when I started this stream, like, oh, I'll just start up and do this the way I've done it in the past. And now looking at some of the pieces of that, I'm like, I don't know if I like the way I've done it in the past. But thank you. I can usually get the job done. So here's the thing I would kind of be curious about. Is instead of doing it with coroutines, I kind of want to try it with async and await. Which I just don't know a ton about. What's wrong with my metronome? Did I break it? Maybe I just made it too slow. Okay, we can still rip things out of here and all that's all fine. Okay, so let's just think about how we would do this for a second. There's a blog post I've kind of been using as our Medium article. Is that where it was? No, just a blog post. That where I first read about this is like, okay, you have the traditional way to do it, and then here is kind of the async example, which is kind of cool. I don't know that I think it's better, but it is a little more in keeping with like the async world of, you know, all the node stuff we'd been doing for Heat. It's a little more like that. And I could see myself, it's not perfect because in like the Unity realm, there's other infrastructure around making coroutines work that doesn't seem to be there for async and await. Oh, but you can still use it, like you can await for a wait for seconds still. So I'm just kind of into it. And another thing that I like on this last project, we got into kind of a crazy way, crazy world of like coroutines, waiting on coroutines and all that things. But why? Why what? If you're asking why async and await versus coroutines, I think the answer would be that coroutines were kind of the Unity solution to the problem. Yeah, so I think of that as like, oh, here's kind of the Unity solution to this problem versus the language level solution to this problem. Like, oh, this is the C# or .NET way to solve it rather than Unity specific way. So it's maybe a little less implementation specific, maybe how I would describe it. I think there are probably other benefits that I can, here's some reasons, like coroutines can't return values, that's one thing. Coroutines can make error handling difficult. Like there are some real world values, but in my mind, it's maybe just slightly more appropriate because it is like, and actually I couldn't tell you, I think I get so confused about the C# versioning versus the .NET versioning because they're different. And and I actually don't remember if this is, I think it is a C# feature, not a .NET feature. The back end of IEnumerator. Well, IEnumerator is a C# or .NET thing, I believe, but the idea of the coroutine, I think, is a more Unity specific thing, like using an enumerator like that. I might be wrong about that. I couldn't tell you actually if like coroutines exist in that way more broadly outside of Unity. I just thought of it as like, here's the Unity way to do this. Whereas a lot of the rest of the world is seemingly moving towards like async stuff. Now in not in Unity land, async and await stuff can run on multiple threads. That is not a normal Unity thing, but you can do it with this thing, like launching a separate task, which is pretty cool. Because multiple thread stuff in Unity prior to .NET, whatever it is, 4.6, pain in the butt. And kind of scary and dangerous feeling where you have like, oh, I have coroutines launching a separate thread and... So I don't think we actually have to change this very much. I think we just need to have an async function. Like, let's just try it. I think this will be kind of a minimal change where we have like private async. For now, we'll call it async ticker. And all we could still do kind of the same stuff. Like, we'll do this thing while it's true. And then this thing would have kind of like a... what does this return? What are you mad about? Yeah, we need to like return something. For now. What are they doing? We don't actually need a value, right? Oh, task. Yeah, and then we can make a task. I think that is one thing we will need to do, to have like... And this is going to need like an await, whatever, however they phrase it, the await with the wait for seconds. You can make your start async. It's kind of weird. Okay, everything is wrong. Oh, because I'm probably missing some include, right? Using something. Where is it? That's where we just were. No. I think it's like system, let's see. Like where task, system threading tasks. That's what we need. Even though it's not really multi-threaded? Okay. And then I think this is going to be weird. Yeah, I think this is not actually right. Or maybe they had like some fake class to like have an amount of time. Do this time span from seconds. They're gonna need some other thing. I have not done much with this at all. That's kind of why I play with it. Why I want to play with it today. Yeah, like time span is probably a thing we need. So it's just system time span. So we could await for this here and do something when it died, or like this is kind of a weird example because it's kind of always going to happen. It's not like that sequential thing where you'd wait like for some asynchronous task to go and then come back and do something based on the results. Like we're not really doing that in this case. But a lot of this same, I mean, other than this, I think the logic is going to be basically identical inside here. It's just the way we are waiting is slightly different. I wonder if this is better. I wonder if this doesn't allocate something. I don't know. So like instead of the coroutine, will this work? Probably made it mad. What's mad? What do you mad about Unity? So this just works as a drop-in replacement. It's kind of to the beat that the music is playing right now. And we're not really using it very powerfully, right? Because we're not using, like, we don't really care about the return value or anything like that. But we could. One thing I don't know is maybe it is just like slightly more efficient though if this time span doesn't, I guess we can profile and try to figure out. I am not used to this new Unity menu layout. Still, analysis profiler. Look at this new fancy view. So garbage collection allocation. Reflection. Scriptable runtime reflection. Oh, that's like actual reflection probes. I thought I was using reflection like in the language sense. Okay, who's allocating here? I don't know. But none of this seems like me. Does it? Like versus, let's switch back to the Coroutine version. Maybe I'm misremembering the symptoms here. Laggy and muted sometimes. What kind of artwork are you working on? I thought that previously that, I mean, maybe my update is just buried in here somewhere. This is not helpful. These 17 bytes. Am I pulsing here? I appear to be. Okay, if I don't do either of these things, I might be wrong about this, but I thought that was one of the reasons that this was not fully attractive to use the coroutine way, is that this new wait for seconds caused an allocation every tick. Or maybe I'm just not, actually it could just be that I'm not seeing it because it's only some ticks and I'm just missing it. That could be my whole problem, right? So let's try this again. Let's try to just do garbage collector only. Like, okay, yeah, see this, here it is, these little spikes, these little spiky guys. Why can't I navigate through this? I'm a little confused why that doesn't seem to change. Because you can see the garbage collection here, like, that's the garbage collection running, I think, is every time we allocate and then that drops, like you just see this kind of go up and down and up and down and up and down. But I don't... Here... It was very possible I'm just missing something very obvious. I mean, it's a tiny amount. That's the total garbage. Let's see. I feel like what am I missing here? I'm sorting by allocations. Am I just not remembering how to do this? This thing is really frustrating me that I can't. Okay. Like, I would guess that these little spikes are me. Whenever, although they get weird there, huh? Like, don't we think that each of these little spikes is me? Yeah, garbage allocations per frame goes up to the extra, what, 400 bytes? Is that right? Why don't I see that here, though? Quit taking me back there. Why? It's okay, it's these extra ones here that happen. Let's fix update. That's not me though, right? Maybe I'm just confused about where I should be looking. I thought I'd seen that in the past though. I don't understand why I'm not seeing these little spikes, these little spikies here. When I see... Okay, but anyway, if we're not ticking, do we see those? Some of the profiling stuff has definitely evolved a bit, so it could be that I just don't know what I'm doing. No, we still have a very regular little spike, and we still have garbage collection happening, right? I'm confused, I must say. You can't hear me. Sad. I don't know what to tell you. I can hear me with my own 2 ears. I'm just doing something wrong, I think. Or I'm just confused about the way I should, like, that this... Like, when you see this little spike down here... What is all this allocation? Input system? But it doesn't seem to be me. Well, I don't know, man. I'm confused. I thought that might have been a reason to not do this, but I'm maybe just profiling incorrectly. That is a distinct possibility. Anyway, I kind of like our async version for no real reason other than I just kind of like it. I don't know that there's really any major advantage or disadvantage. One nice thing about coroutines is you can just tell them to stop. Just like you start a coroutine, you can stop a coroutine, but we can always just set ticker to false here, and then this will go through and return. So that's fine, right? We could also set a value with the return and do an await here and get like the return of that. We just don't need to do it. This is probably like a weird example for this particular strategy because we don't really need to do it. We just need a thing to loop. And like we don't even really need a coroutine. We could figure out a way to do it with just the Unity update. We could figure out a way, like there's other ways we could figure out how to do this, but I just wanted to try the async thing. I'm confused about that memory allocations stuff though. I might just be incorrect about how it's supposed to work. Okay, so we have a beating heart now. Terrific. What do we want that beating heart to do? I think maybe in addition to yeah, okay, so let's do a beats per measure. Let's be more explicit about this too. So beats per minute 120, beats per measure 4. So we can do the thing where not only do we send the tick. In fact, let's call this like ticks per minute because I want to differentiate between the idea of a tick and a beat. And maybe I don't know. Because I want to know what like beat I'm on in a given measure, not just what tick I'm on. Let's leave it for the moment. I don't quite know. So we'll have a tick count. We also want like we want to know which measure we're on and which beat we're on. I think those are things that would be useful to know if we want to behave differently. Like meaning which beat within that measure, which is independent from the total number of ticks, right? Because if we're going 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, we want to know that. So measures will always be the floor of beats divided, like tick count divided by beats per measure. Whatever the floor of that is should be our measure. Let's fix this problem. Beats per minute. And then the beat will be the modulo of that, right? So measure is going to be, no, I clearly said, really that's an integer. Maybe they should all be ints. I don't really see needing to make them floats. Let me think about that. Will be like math.floor the tick count divided by the beats per measure, right? Just no remainder, just how many what are you so mad about? Oh, but that's gonna return it. Oh, come on. What are you upset about? And then the beat is going to be the modulo, the int of tick count mod beats per measure, right? And then over here, we can then know and now we can add a beat here. And it should be 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. So we could do something different on the 0th beat, basically. But, oh, no, that was supposed to log. That's my fault. So we could have a different sound, for example, like if we want it to be like, yeah. That's because I have collapse, it looks weird. But I think that's correct. So we could have a different sound to say, like, if it was like bass drum, rim shot, rim shot, rim shot, bass drum, rim shot, rim shot, rim shot. I don't know if I have good drum samples on this machine. I think we got some from Audio Helm, which maybe we'll bring Audio Helm into this project. I just don't have, like, that is a thing. I'm definitely getting more comfortable with doing stuff on Windows, but my whole audio world is very Mac-based and Logic-based, and that would be a problematic thing to escape. Because Logic's pretty good. Oh, that's weird. I have Ableton installed on this machine? I don't remember that at all. Is that really a thing I have on here? I don't use Ableton very much. Okay, snare, helm. I really thought we had a bunch of drum samples somewhere. Maybe that was on one of the other stream projects. Was that in Hello? Do we have some drums somewhere? On this here computing machine? In the demos? Am I just wrong about that? Drum kit, BD, there we go. So, I'm guessing RS is rim shot and bass and BD. Let's just grab these for now because I have them on this machine. Uh-oh. This is a problem. Stopping, I think we have a problem with our async stuff. That it's still running. That doesn't seem good at all. That seems real bad, in fact. Did I kill it? Okay. So we need probably an on-destroy to make sure that we are that's kind of a weird one. I've definitely had that with multi-threaded stuff, but I wasn't really expecting it here. If that's really what is happening, that we need to kill it. I think we would just need an on-destroy to stop that tick. That's pretty weird, though, that would run in that instance. Is that really what was going on? Did I break something else? Like, that seems just not cool. Yeah, it's still going. The heart is still going. That's pretty weird, right? That seems really bad. I think it's on destroy, right? Just do a make sure that ticking is false. Unless there's some other, there may be some other way to kill that task, but that seems like the easy way. Okay, that seemed to do the job. That was weird. Pretty weird. Okay, I forgot what I was doing. Audio. So we want probably, I think, this bass drum and this rim shot, right? And that'll be for now. We'll just have 2 audio clips exposed on the heart. We'll want a, this is what we want. We want an audio source. And we'll do play one shot, so we don't need to know anything about it other than have a reference to it. And then we want something like this. We want something like if the beat is 0, we want to play audio source dot play one shot, something like bass audio clip, else play rim shot audio clip, something like that. Rim audio clip. Not very tidy names, but I think they'll be okay for now. This stuff can be private. And then we can have a bass audio clip, which is an, oops, audio clip. This is not really the way I would like to do this. I don't like, it seems silly to have such explicitly named things, but I think this is fine to get the idea across. So on the heart, we will do this and do this, and you don't need to play on awake, and you don't need a clip there because it's just going to play one shot. So maybe this might sound horrible. It might not like start a counter at 0 or something. It seemed like it didn't start on the 0th beat. Like, it's like the first one didn't play. Maybe the tick happened too early. Because we only heard the first. That's pretty weird. Why would we have not gotten the 0th tick? So I haven't incremented the tick yet, so the tick count should be 0. 0 mod 4 is 0, right? Yeah. Maybe the problem is this thing, that thing happens on start, but this really needs to happen on maybe awake. I think it's just like an order of operations thing. Yeah. I don't really like that. I don't necessarily like the way I just did it. Okay, so now we have a beating heart. I'm sure we can come up with some cleaner way to do that. Just trying to make sure that it sounds and feels very consistent time-wise, which I think it does. Like you heard when I just switched windows and it lost a little bit, and one of the beats wasn't quite timed. It's funny that it got killed here. I don't know what died. What died? So that's just errors. So what I was maybe imagining is like we've got these sort of heartstrings pulled out, and maybe like every beat we send a beat along one of the heartstrings to hit one of our dudes, one of our nodes. I don't know if we'll get into that today though. We also want like way more intense sounding stuff, right? Like these are not very exciting. We want like a boom, you know. I think we want like deep, lush, intense sounds. Did you hear that? We dropped some cycles there. I heard it hiccup again. We just need like some cool electronic drum kit. And I need to look at some synthy stuff I have. Just all my cool stuff is, how did what get good? Is something good? I don't know if there's anything good going on. We already had the dragging out things. This was already going on. They're very broken. Oh, the nodes? I didn't change the nodes today. This is what the nodes were always like, or they were like since last time. But they're very broken because their noise is based on position. So as you drag them, they go insane. And they're also tied to your body, so when you do it in VR, they swim all over and look insane. Okay, let's do a couple like little housekeepy kinds of things. One of which is this line can just be way tinier, if it will let me make it tinier. Probably what I will do in the end, if I decide to end up having these lines, is draw them with vectrosity, which is a pretty nice asset for drawing lines. Much more making things when you're asleep. I've only worked on this for like one stream, right? I don't even know maybe two? I feel like this is only my second stream on this. Okay, so the beat interpolation is like a slightly complicated thing. That's what I was describing before. If we want to have, whenever the heart beats, and if we want to like send off a beat to pursue one of the nodes, we need to know, we need like a progress report, right? We need to know progress, like where the metronome is, you know, at this moment, and where it's going to be. Okay, there's a couple things we need. One of them is progress, right? Because there's a beat here in time and there's a beat here in time. And those beats are happening very infrequently, right? They're only happening like once every half second, which there's like 30 frames unaccounted for there, really. So if we want to animate, we need more granularity, but we need to be able to kind of ask the beat, or sorry, ask the metronome like what its progress is, which would mean that at any time, that's a little bit complicated. It's not super complicated, it's just a little annoying. We need to maintain like what the last time is, and then also what our kind of anticipated next time is, which in this case would be this, essentially, whatever the current time is plus this. So we could have something like, I get so confused about this naming convention, but like something like last tick time and next tick time. Are you the only one here? No, Life is Yours was just talking, but, and I think there's a few other viewers lurking around. Bots, all bots. We're all bot. I'm a bot. But do the bots actually watch, or do they just sit and chat? Because I see I have a separate number for people that supposedly are like actually looking, but maybe some of the bots actually look. I was thinking of making a weird thing that would just like watch other things. Like, is there a way that I can connect to a Twitch stream with FFmpeg from Twitch and grab screenshots from it and just connect it to a bunch of just connect random streams? So here's the thing. It's going to be like, this is going to be like last tick time equals whatever we had said the next tick time is going to be. And then next tick time equals, this just gets a little weird because either there's a couple ways to think about this. One of them is to like always adhere to what you think the truth should be. Like in other words, saying like, hey, our interval is this, and we've had this many ticks, so the next tick should be at exactly this time. That's one school of thought, which over time you're always kind of trying to correct if there's any amount of drift. The other school of thought is just say, you just always look at like, here's where I am right now, and the next tick is just the interval from right now. I think I like the idea of being more correct with it. Like, in other words, using what we think the actual real life math should be. So like last tick time should be something like am I building on fire? The building might be on fire. I might be on fire. I don't think it's on fire. I'm gonna guess it's a false alarm, but maybe I should check. I mean, what I really think probably happened, I heard the roofers or somebody was working on stuff this morning, so I think maybe somebody just set something off accidentally. I'm not on fire. I think I'm okay. For granted, live users, you are generally, I would agree with you on that, but with the workers working on things, it is not uncommon for them to like cause a ruckus. So I think it is I feel 90% confident that is I can just stick my head out the door and see if it's on fire. I'm not on fire right now. Tattletale on them. I need you to come do that. Come get the roofers in trouble. I don't know if it's the roofers now or if it's just somebody else. Somebody else was working on stuff. Encode, how's it going? My building's on fire, which is great, but I'm not gonna let that stop me. So here's what I think. I think I'm gonna stick to what I think should be like definitively true, which is we have a certain interval time. Oh, that won't be true. Never mind. I just realized that won't be true. Ah, that sucks. Because I deliberately made it where you could edit the interval. So never mind. So we'll just say whatever... I can't do it that way. I want to do it that way, but it will not work. Don't worry, if the building catches on fire, I can just jump out the window and land on all of the rusty nails and boards that the roofers threw out there. So it will be no problem. I'll be safe and sound. Also, here's another reason I think I'm safe. My smoke alarm goes off like at the slightest hint of anything. Like if I just slightly cook something a little too long, anything, it will go off. Okay, so this doesn't feel great. I would like for this to be a little more accurate. Like, strong accuracy is an important thing in a metronome. That's like a thing that you want. But let's do this for now, and then maybe I can come up with some smart way to do it with and still account for a variable beats per minute, which maybe we'll get rid of the variable beats per minute, because that would make this easier to have as like a fixed thing. Ben, where have you been? Where you been all my life? So the thing that we get out of this is the ability to have progress, right? So, and we can make it static if we're gonna do this whole everything is static kind of world, right? So those are all our fields. Let's have some properties. Do you hear it not being on the beat when it's in the background? Like how it sometimes drifts and jumps around a little bit. I don't know if that's just because it's a background task and it's being deprioritized or something. Okay, so it's gonna drive me crazy a little bit. Okay, so we want to have something that's like that is only a getter, and it will be something like what? It will be something like time.time minus last tick time divided by next tick time minus last tick time. And that will give us a alpha. I call that an alpha. I don't know if that's still the right term for that, but I think that's what we want. So that would let us know if something was like, hey, I need to be over here and I need to be over there during this beat, it will let me ask the metronome for progress. A week or 2 hours off. I don't think I took that long off, did I? I don't know. I streamt. Is that a word? Did you just hear me use streamt as the past tense of stream? That was a weird thing to do. Weird. I have not been. I streamed like every day all through February, and then through much of March every day, often twice a day. But I think once the contest was announced, I took a little break. Yeah, I skipped the second and third. Give me a break then. But only a few days. Only days here and there, not that long, right? Okay, so now we can get progress from this. So we can have something that is like a beat that when we want it to, the heart can manufacture a beat and send it somewhere. Which what's going to be a little weird about that is the heart kind of needs to know about all the nodes, but it currently doesn't. Like if it was just going to randomly pick a node to send a beat to. Lorian, I deliberately turn those sounds off because they're irritating because you use them too much. So I'm not going to turn them back on. No way. I was active in Discord. That's true. Let's see. So we got these sounds. Do I want to work on that right now? I have a meeting in not too long. Maybe we get a start on it. Let's see. So if we have the idea of a beat, and when the heart beats, it can instantiate a beat and send it out. This is like super similar to stuff that we did with, or that I did with Velodic and Ostinato. We've done some stuff that's along these lines recently. I've broken the script again. How dare me? I think I've been very clear that I don't like the alert sound stresses me out a little bit, and it's really only there like if I screw up, you know, if I'm on the wrong scene or something like that. So it's not there to spam at all. That just it makes me feel bad to hear it over and over again. So that is why it's off. It's on for VIPs, just in case. Just in case. Alerts are fun. Well, you can have the visual alert. I do plan to add some more things, but things that like don't stress me out, because the alerts. The Metal Gear Solid alert sound stresses me out. Alexa, stop. I didn't say her name. What is she doing over there? Plotting to get me. She's out to get me. She was alerted. That's what happened. Who's in control? Who took control of her? Did she say the building's on fire? Maybe I'll hook alerts up to that to the building fire alarm. Okay, so yeah, I think maybe like this dude will just fire off beats everywhere. Maybe only once per. Like we'll have it instantiate a beat, and that beat will pick a node that will be the target node, and it will know where the heart is, and it will know where the node is, and it will ask the metronome. That's making the assumption that beats will always only care about, you know, the last and the next beat, versus them needing to know, you know, like if we wanted something to happen several beats away or several measures away. Yeah, because none of the VIPs were abusing it. VIP broadcaster moderator, I think right now is what it's set to. Let's see. But one day we will add things to play with for sure. Just things that don't stress me out. Okay, so let's see. So, okay, let's just get started on this. Let's just have a sphere that'll be very little. And that tiny sphere will be called a beat. And I can't spell. Nope. And we'll give it a little material. And so the idea, I think, will be that the heart will be able to, it'll know about a game object, beat prefab, and for now, let's just do it on beat 0. Well, that seems a little weird because then it's always only going to play on whatever the next beat is. Let's not do that. I don't quite want to think about that yet. Okay, so that is about playing the sound. This is about playing the animation. Then we'll have a thing that's about spawning beats. And so we'll do something like make a beat instance for instantiate a beat prefab. And then we need a beat. That's not a class yet. Don't help me, Visual Studio Code. Beat equals beat instance get component. Please don't autocorrect for me when I haven't, just because I haven't made a class yet. Okay, and then we will do something like beat.init, and it will take this, which will be the heart, and then some random node. I don't know whose job it's going to be to know about a node, though. Because right now there's not like a manager of nodes. When nodes get created, they're sort of just... Well, actually, is that not true? Maybe the core knows about it. So it should be, maybe it should be the core's job to instantiate beats, not the heart. I kind of forgot what we said core would do. So it's core's job currently to instantiate nodes. So let's make it, let's also have its job be to instantiate beats. So something like and then this is the whole thing dependency-wise. Wait, what did you find? Oh, Heat. So fancy. Look at Heat being all fancy. I wonder if anybody's actually using it. Wait, you can't install it? Why not? That's not good. I had originally said that I only wanted it to be released for me, and then when they released it for everybody. That's weird. Maybe they went back and changed the permissions? Because, like, you were using it before, and Binary was using it before. Is it still installed on your normal channel? That's a really weird. I don't know why. I haven't changed anything. I haven't touched anything with the settings. Maybe when they redeployed everything, it got weird. Okay, here's the whole thing. Here's the whole thing. Unity is dependency management. How is the heart gonna know about the core? That's like the whole deal, right? So core is not gonna know about that. Core is gonna know about. That's the thing that's dealing with all prefabs and stuff right now. And core is not gonna know about this. Core is gonna. I mean, heart's not going to know about that. Core is going to do this. So the whole thing is heart needs to know about core. So the real easy answer is just to make core a singleton. Not my favorite thing to do, but it's definitely the easy thing. And then core is like kind of our manager. I don't know. That's not how you spell instance. That's pretty weird. I don't know why you would not be able to. I didn't do that on purpose. I mean, I actually did. I did initially have it set where only I could use it, and then when they released it, they didn't do that, right? So you were able to use it and Binary was able to use it. And then I have not touched it since then. That's pretty weird. Well, you know what I can do though? I think I can give you permission to use the beta version. They changed all this stuff. The whole world is different now. So this is the new version. It's not hosted or anything though. I don't even know. Let's see if I can look at this and know. Version details. Access. Oh, I think they. Oh man, I think they changed. They did that re-release. So this is kind of dumb. They changed this, which this is kind of nice. Like I can actually add people now instead of needing to know their names. So that's cool. However, it won't let me remove this. You must be in local test. So I can't edit this once it's released. Like I can't save any changes here. That's super not cool. Okay, let me try to do something to give you access real quick, but I don't want to get sidetracked on this. Let me find that new version. Maybe you'll be able to use this. I don't actually know if this will work at all. But let's try it. What is the channel name you want to use it? Just enable it. Let's see. The Lifebot, save changes. Okay, I tried to give you access to this 0.1.0 version. So, although this says that will be allowed to install the extension after release, but does this mean you can use it right now? Maybe you're seeing... I'm confused about this. The Lifebot. Okay, I'll try that. If that doesn't work, then maybe we'll try to have a stream soon where we figure out what the deal is. Okay, back to this instance, and then we need a public core instance. I have spelled that wrong 7 times. So that's the 0. So maybe you can't install it to test as a broadcaster until it's released, so you can only have it as a user, which means that there's probably not anything that I can do except push through that other version to release. That's pretty annoying because it definitely worked, right? Like you were definitely able to use it. Binary was definitely able to use it. So Twitch broke something. Oh well. I'm not very worried about it at this very moment. So now we need to get yell at Twitch. I don't care. I don't care that much. You've seen how their developers respond. Like, I might not get a response at all, and if I do get a response, it'll say like, "Well, as per the documentation." Well, as per the documentation, it was never supposed to work for other people upon release, and then other people are able to use it. Oh no! Now you're crying too. Lorian cries enough for everybody. You don't need to also cry. I don't actually know. It's kind of, I don't know. So what's annoying is it kind of looks like what you would like to be able to do is whitelist it for other people to use before release, but seemingly that is a thing they are trying to prevent, which I guess I understand. But the not being able to remove something from the whitelist after release, kind of lame. Not being able to edit that whitelist. They just don't want you to touch anything after it's been published. So I think the only thing that I could really do is push this thing through to release, which, as we know, takes forever for them to get around to looking at. And I don't even want to think about it right now. You have a smile on the outside. You're also purple on the outside, so that's also important to remember. Twitch kind of lame. I mean, you know, it's hard. I'm sure it's hard to do developer stuff. It's hard. It's hard to make things. It's hard to make things for people to use to begin with, and then to like make things for people to build on. Really hard. But I'm gonna momentarily ignore the problem while we do this other stuff. What did I do here? This was like find object of type. And then we have to cast it to core, and then we have a singleton. And then now we can use core.instance from heart. I don't love this. I don't love it, I gotta say. But we'll have a private core, and then we'll get it here. Why didn't that work? Public core instance has a getter. Because it should be static. And now down here we can do core.createBeat. Yeah. So now whenever there's a beat, the core will do the thing, and then core inside create beat is going to do all this jazz. We didn't create beat yet. Beat. Well, life is yours per the documentation. They don't have to say anything other than per the documentation. Okay, so we're gonna create this thing, and then all we needed was like some kind of init function, because it needs to know about two things. It needs to know about really, it only needs the transforms of them. What do we actually know? We know what? Core knows about heart. It has the transform for the heart. And it could randomly know about we could maintain a list of nodes, so we could give it nodes. So we'll do like transform heart and transform, we'll call it new heart, Bob Newhart, and transform new node, and then do like heart equals new heart, and then the whole thing that's going to happen in the update loop here is just the interpolation between those 2 points based on so if we know about heart and null, we will interpolate between them. And we maybe want to handle this totally separately from the idea of telling a node, hey, you got a beat coming your way. Because maybe the beat is just about the animation, and then as far as like telling the node that it got hit by a beat, it could be a whole other thing. But let's try this. Let's say float progress equals metronome. Did I not make this public? Did we not do this? Well, I don't, that's what I tried to add with this thing. What did I do wrong here? This property. Static. It can be static. Oh no, but if it's static, then everything has to be static. Oh, that's where we get a little weird here. That's okay. I think it's okay. This is why, actually, I may just switch back to having this be a singleton. Just, I get personally confused when you're like in this partially static, non-static world. Whereas if you do the singleton, then it's like everything is in an instance except for your ability to reference that instance. That's the only static thing. And so we may change that back because I'm already going to get confused. I'm already confusing myself. What is static even for? Well, if you have a class like Metronome, normally you would say like, oh, I want to use that. Well, then I have to create it. I need to do, metronome equals, my metronome equals new metronome, right? Like I need an instance of that class. If it's static, you don't have to do that. And you use those things all the time. Like if you're doing like, vector3 dot distance or whatever, distance, I wonder why that didn't work. Is that not what it's called? Yeah, dot distance. Vector3 dot distance is a static method on the vector3 class. So I can do that without having a vector3 versus there's also a distance that is like vector3 vec3 equals new vector3 where I do need an instance, and then it's vec3 dot distance. Oops, no. Why are you correcting that? You are so stupid, Visual Studio Code. It's right there. Vec3 is right there. This distance is actually a totally different function. This one, why is this not working? What are you mad about? Is this just Visual Studio Code being stupid? Like, why are you not letting me put in... Like, this one normally would take another vector and give you the distance. Anyway, does that make sense? Yeah, but it's not even prompting me. It's not, like, asking me. It's not doing the, you know, you would normally do vec3.distance and then open parentheses and then get the, like... Oh, is this mad because of this? So everything else is breaking because of that? What is your problem? Okay, ignore this. Now? Are you done being dumb? No, you're not? Anyway, I don't know why Visual Studio Code is being idiotic, but you mad? You made a mad face. That face, what's that face called? That the rage? You're raging. Do you have to pass parameters to make a new vector 3? Really? For the constructor? Anyway, you get the point. Like, if it's static, you don't have to make it. And that's why I can do, in this case, call metronome.progress on the class itself, basically, without having to... what are you mad about? Oh, it's a property. That's my fault. Without having to have a reference to the metronome, which is what I'm saying I might want to change, as opposed to core right here where we get the instance, and then in heart where I have core, like I have a local reference to core. I'm not doing the static stuff. And so I'm already kind of feeling like I don't want to do that with metronome just because it'll get confusing fast. Anyway, the whole goal of that is for the beat to be able to know about its progress when a beat gets created. And then we need some way, that's what we were doing here. I probably did not explain that super well. Does that make sense? Like, static means you don't need an instance of that class to use the method or property. Okay, so this, we're gonna feed it heart, which is easy. And then we'll just feed it, for now, like node, like the 0th node, basically. If there are nodes.count, we'll just have a list of nodes that whenever we add a node to, we will do it. Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how I started down the path today. Just, I thought I would give it a shot where we try to make metronome something we deal with statically, but I don't think I like that really, because it exists. It already exists in the world. We have an instance of it because it's in a scene. So treating it like treating these things like they're static is like not quite true, because they're part of a real instance and stuff is happening to them. So I don't know. I think we'll probably switch that back. It was just an experiment. Okay, so what is my whole deal? I'm running out of time, but let's do a list of nodes, and then whenever we create, I don't even need to serialize that. Whenever we create a node, after we create the node, where do we do that? Here. We need to stick that node here. And then so now we're going to instantiate beats, and the beats are going to know about whatever the 0th node is. What's your problem? Is it .length or count? It is .count. What are you complaining about? And what do you want to be? Oh, you want to transform. That's fair. These are fair. Stabs Pog. It's a pretty good emote, but I only like emotes that are purple, personally. What's weird is all those emotes that we were looking at in Discord, like the unicorn and the bug and the whale, are purple in the desktop version, but they're not in the mobile version. I don't know why. It's like the desktop version was just made for Life is Yours. Why is that? Okay, so this is not going to do anything that we want it to do, but hopefully it just doesn't break. It broke. Null reference. What's wrong? Oh, I didn't, because I didn't make it public, we do have to make it a thing. I could solve this one or two ways. By serializing this field and having it exist in the editor, it would be sort of implicitly created, which might not be a bad thing, or we just need to do... Just need to, wait, do it ourselves. That is not good. What kind of virus? That sounds scary. So that seems like another null reference. What did I break this time? My heart is not beating. That seems bad. I just beat once. But no errors? What did I do? That kind of makes it seem like I did something wrong in here. Okay, what am I doing wrong in here? That's pretty weird. So, send that transform in. So there's something wrong with the creation of this beat or the initialization of the beat. Oh, a beat is null, probably. Let's apply all this stuff. Let's delete it from here. Why did I not get an error for that? I forgot what we called core. Here's core. Beat prefab. That's what's missing. How did I not get an error there? Did I not have errors turned on? That was weird. Norovirus. Oh, bummer. Okay, we're getting all these beats that are doing nothing now, which they kind of shouldn't be because there were no nodes. So why were they even getting created? Yeah, don't even create. That's just my fault. Okay. Okay. So we'll just send them to the 0th node for now. We will create them. We will know about... We know about this progress between the current beat and the next beat. And so what we want to do is do something like transform.position to be equal to vector3.lerp. So we're just going to interpolate between those two, between the heart and the node, and then the amount we will be progress. And kind of at the end of that, we want to destroy it, but let's not worry about that for now. And let's do all world positions for all these things, I think. Because the nodes kind of swim around, so it's going to be a little weird because we'll be lerping towards a moving target. Okay, yes, now we're spewing beats all over the place. Great. And the beats are not self-destructing. This is pretty weird. Like, the beats are going to be... Somebody's job has to be to tell the node that they got hit. And somebody's job needs to be to tell the beat that it needs to be destroyed. Or really, probably really, we don't want to instantiate beats every time. We probably want to have an object pool. But basically the idea of like an active beat or an inactive beat. But I'm not... I've got to stop shortly, so let's think what we want to do. So one thing just that would make this slightly more interesting is to get a node index and do like a random range between 0, and we want an integer, and it won't be inclusive. So this can be nodes.count, right? I think in terms, and when you use it with int, that it doesn't include that. So I think this is safe. I think it's exclusive. And then we'll do node index here, and then it should randomly pick a node to animate to. Secondly, just to make it look slightly nicer, let's make the beat a little bit tinier. And let's make it unlit. And now we should just randomly... Oh, but the beats continue to animate over and over again forever because they're not getting destroyed. How do we want the beats to know that they can die? So there's two ways to do it. One is to say if they're... you would need to like tell them like, hey, next time they would also subscribe to the metronome, and then they would die next time there was a call, which is a little bit weird because you end up with a problem potentially where you're like messing with the collections you're iterating over, because you would be sort of adding something that's responding to metronome clicks while in the middle of processing metronome clicks, which is pretty weird. But maybe not a horrible idea, because then the beat could just say like, oh, when there's a tick, like on tick, whatever the signature is for that. Steal it from here. And just to be like, you could figure that out by saying like, oh, make sure that it's, you know, bigger than the last number or whatever. Like when you create it, tell it you need to die on what tick it should die. But in the meantime, we could just say something like this. Same thing with this. I think I'm going to change this metronome. I kind of like it, but it's inconsistent in a way that's confusing. Like if the core is going to work one way, then it is confusing. To have the metronome work a different way. In fact, maybe the metronome should just be like a reference that you get from the core. That might make more sense. And then the core can know about everything, and it can be kind of the service lookup provider. Let's destroy game object when a tick happens. This may or may not work. I don't actually know if this is going to work, because it may immediately self-destruct. Is it actually broken? I feel like there are errors happening that I am not seeing in Unity, which is pretty weird. Lorian, I don't know why you're crying. I don't know why you always cry. That is... Is that a destroy thing? If we're making new ones every time... So what do we actually do here? I got a commercial, but I saw what it was there. Let's see. Am I destroying the wrong thing? Like destroying that game object. Because I was working until I did the destroy. It could just be that that's not actually... Because right now we're just building beats forever. And I want to destroy the beats when there's a new tick, but I really need to make sure that it is like the next tick, right? Like whatever... Which, how could I know that? That's not currently available. That information is not currently available to me. Like the tick I'm on versus the next tong. Next tick. Whoa. Where is that? I don't want any starbs. I do have to go to PNCA today for a meeting. That's where I have to go in like 30 minutes. You know who needs some starbs is Life Is Yours. He's probably never even had any. He lives in Norway. Do they even have starbs in Norway? Probably. What's a starb? Okay, let's see. What is actually the right way to do this? Like, we could do it in here. This just isn't as tidy, sort of, to say, like, oh, if progress is... That's a little bit weird. This is a slightly weird one. To know, like, what tick we're on when we're created. That's kind of something you would want to set here, maybe. Like, in the core, to say, you should die on the next metronome tick. Which means we'd kind of want to have, like, we're getting out of control with these static fields. We need to refactor this. I don't like it anymore. I got out of control with it. It's my own fault. And then we would say something like, well, wait, what do we want to call that? Yeah, let's just tick count. Yeah. I don't know. This doesn't feel great. Did I not make you? Oh, that one would need to be public. So we could have, maybe we make a make a property for it. Did I not do that with progress? Maybe I did. Yeah. Okay. So that will basically then it'll be sort of like death tick, new death tick, and we'll have like a private int. I don't know if I like this approach at all, but I need to leave shortly, so that's what we're gonna do. Death tick, and then we can say tick count is equal to the death tick, meaning really just like one tick later from when we were. And then maybe in the future we'd have other ways where you could schedule things further out to destroy this particular game object. So maybe that will work better. Streaming later? No, it's for a faculty meeting. I think it's gonna be a long faculty meeting. Okay, so this works now. It's kind of weird how, yeah, okay. And then we could make the individual nodes play different sounds as they go out. Might be kind of cool. And they could glow, and you could have all these nodes broken out of you. Do you have starbursts in Norway? What are all these problems? Why is it throwing errors for this? This is kind of annoying when I have serialized field and they do get assigned, and then we get all these errors that are not actually errors. Anyway, okay, so this is not a horrible start. We've got nodes. We have a way to fire this off. Simultaneously, we could tell the node, give the node some heads up to say, when you, just like we told the beat to die on a certain tick, we could tell the node like, hey, when you hear about this certain tick, you need to play music. I wrote stuff like this, and I feel like I did a better job last time, actually. Like, there's a lot of stuff for like this with Velodic and Velodic VR. that I think I did a little more tidily. But, you know, partially today I just wanted to experiment with some slightly different approaches to things. I already don't like some of those approaches that I think we would refactor. How do I want to know that? How do I want to know, if I'm a node, do I want the beat to tell me to play music? I think I don't. I think I want the beat to just be purely for visuals, and that to be the core's job to tell everybody, like, hey, this is what's up. And then it could tell the node that it's hot, you know, that it's like, hey, you've got a beat coming in, and it will hit you at tick X, and so you should respond accordingly. That seems like maybe the way to do it, right? Something like that. Lorian, thank you. Have an awesome day. Thank you for stopping by. You don't know what starbursts are? They're candies. Okay, I think I wanna just get into VR for a second and try this, and then I'm gonna go. Just to see what's up. Probably something is not gonna work right in VR. See ya later. Have a lovely evening. Okay, so let's see if this works, maybe. Okay, I have a beating part now. I have hands. Okay, one problem is that my hands aren't tracking well. Another problem, which is kind of funny, is that the beats are going to where the nodes are supposed to be, but not where the nodes are animation-wise. Can you see this? Oh yeah, there's me. Where did we go? So this is mostly silly and broken, but I still kind of like it. Because these things are just flowing out of me. It'd be kind of cool if instead of straight lines, they were like weird fluid kind of lines, and then maybe they expand over time and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then as they get bigger, they could take longer for the beats to get there. That could be pretty cool. Right now I look like some kind of weird musical porcupine. So I think next time we do this, we will, the next thing to do is to make the nodes play sounds, right? That's gotta be the next. That's the next thing to do, because that's the most important part. The problem, the continual problem with Audio Helm is, no, my perspective, I'm seeing the real deal. This is a camera. Let's see if I can show you what I see. I just made this camera for like the stream. So that's kind of the stream camera. The camera I see is this. So I like look down and actually see my heart, and like can look around and actually see stuff and rip it out. But sometimes this is, I feel like, not very helpful to see on stream when you're just seeing like weird pieces of nonsense. So that's why I set up that other camera, but maybe I'll change it. Ooh, and then we can add something with heat, so that like while I'm in there ripping beats out, other people can do little things around with heat. We'll have a weird heat rave, right? Okay, I think that's good. We made some progress today. We did some stuff. I think I'm gonna undo some of those things that I did. I'm not crazy about our weird like half static metronome. I kind of like it a little bit, but I think I mostly don't like it. So I'll probably make it a singleton for now and just break the rules and have singletons. Excuse me. I'm slightly tired. That was probably a good emote face that I just made, huh? I think that's it for today. Thank you, Lorian, for hanging out. Thank you, Life is Yours, for hanging out. Thank you, Ben, for momentarily coming in and setting off the fire alarm. I think it was Ben. I think Ben did that. Is that a rar? Ooh, I don't know about rar spelled like that. I feel like that has certain connotations. Whoa, there's Ben. Ben was there. He was there the whole time. I knew it. I should have known, lurking around like an animal. Okay. Yes, we made some metronomes. I think it's kind of a bad metronome currently. We need some kind of scheduler to say like, hey, on a certain beat, do a certain thing. And either that goes in some centralized place or individual citizens are responsible for themselves. And I think that's the right thing. I think I want to tell a node like, hey node, on beat 415, you need to play a sound. That I think is the easy way to do things. Just make everything based on reacting to beats and just knowing if you either one of two ways. So either you need to say, hey node, you need to do something on X beat, whichever beat that is, or you just need to say, hey but node, you are active, and the next time a beat happens, you do something. That's maybe a little easier in some ways, and a little less to manage, but it is less flexible. So we'll probably do the numeric thing. We got a little bit of simple animation. We still have a lot of things that are very broken, but I feel like I'm at least like, we're coming closer to this being an actual thing, right? I think this general idea of just this musical thing that you pull these nodes out of you and they will sort of over time float off into space and get quieter as they get more distance, all of that I think will be cool. Oh, I started to say, I think maybe one issue we're gonna have, I like Audio Helm and I think it's cool, but I think one of the problems we would have here is if we want that positional audio, I feel like we were having some trouble with that with like separate sequencers. Maybe it's okay if they're the same sequencer, but if we wanted these to all have different voices, I don't know about that. Let's play with that a little bit and decide what the right answer is. That Google Audio API, the resonance, yeah, for the ambisonic sound, we will probably use the Google Resonance API, yeah, because that seemed to work okay. It's just the Audio Helm way of the synthesizer being like a single mixer channel, sort of. I don't know if did we figure that out? Now I can't even remember if we actually even figured it out where you could have separate positional audio for things that were sharing a single synth, or if like the synth is kind of at a position and as you play it, it happens. I can't remember what we decided. Okay, I'm getting alerts that it's time to go to the meeting. So I'm gonna go to the meeting. Thanks for hanging out, and we will talk so very soon. Goodbye.